But I gotta ask you about Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
Tony Hurley.
She's a piece of
Well,
I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching.
oh my gosh. Well, he ain't holding nothing back.
And that's show you how
Wow.
that show you how old Judge Joe Brown is. He's hiking up the hemline.
But he had to call her a piece of you know what. Still. Okay.
I was out in California for 15 years doing my show when she was at her peak, and she had a reputation amongst the trial lawyers of being lazy.
Really?
She just hike her skirt up and try to flirt. And she wasn't that good in the courtroom, if not pretty bad in the courtroom. So I'm not surprised at what she does. She's 60 years old, and I think listening to her word salad and the way she talks, I think she's got early onset dementia and also some problems with menopausal complications. That's that, you see, today is going to be tomorrow, so since it's going to be tomorrow, today we have tomorrow, which is why we are now. Like, what did you say? They have something in mind, but they cannot cognate getting all the way through it, which is why she's famous for this word salad garbage, and she doesn't make a bit of sense. I think since she's only 60, she's actually on a worse track than Biden was. Biden is 20-some years older than her, and he has been senile for a long time. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, when did they start ramping up to do this? 2019. Okay, I was saying Biden has been a failure his whole adult career, a second-rate, third-string player. He's in the game, so he wants to make a name for himself. I considered him for years poor trailer park, urban trailer park trash.
Urban. Wow.
And he's a crook. He's a
We know that.
third stringer.
Third string.
Now, what I said he was going to do is he probably wants to claim fame for being the first person to see to it that a woman got to be president. And what I predicted, I'm slightly wrong on it, was that he was going to get in, try to get elected, and if he got one term, try to get elected for a second one. And then halfway through his term, when he had served 2 years, to retire or resign in her favor. So under the 22nd Amendment, what happens is she can serve for the final 2 years for somebody and then be elected twice more. So that woman would be able to serve 10 years, second only to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who got elected to 4 terms before they put the amendment in place so you couldn't. Now, that said, I think, and my major at UCLA was political science. My analysis is they picked the weakest somebody they could as a figurehead,
Right.
somebody who had some apparent minority status,
Pause button real quick.
which she does not. And
Okay, so my question then is, she had to be able to go through law school and pass the bar to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So she was smart enough to do that.
Well, that's not.
No, he was just saying that she was lazy in the courtroom, though.
Keep watching it through.
Okay, but I'm just saying. So I'm just saying all this to say, even though she was smart enough to become a lawyer and she made it to becoming a district attorney, I think that's where her level of competency rests.
Right.
We know it's not for presidency, but I'm just curious. I mean, he said he's telling it all, and Poe Biden, he really summed it up in a nutshell about him.
When Kamala went down to Lolo Ontario,
Stop.
he
How old is
gave
he
her
now?
and
Is
he
he
gave
in
her
his
a
70s or
raise
80s? 70s?
because she lifted her stern, her
what
headline
goes
up.
on is that you get her, everybody that is everybody would be afraid to go against her because of what she can pass herself off as. And then you get somebody that's easy to control because she's lazy. Because she is becoming incoherent, and because she's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants.
Oh,
Now,
the
the
casting
problem
couch.
is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly, but you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent.
Right.
So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe. And she's old hoe. And the problem is what is she supposed to do? Somebody, one of her sycophant slaves, comes up and unwraps her in a carpet naked at Putin's feet, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm Julius Caesar." He said, "No, I got better stuff here already. Plus, I don't want you anyway. You old woman. Get on up." You know, or Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today.
For real.
Fool, what did you just say?
Yeah, what?
You know, did you say anything? And I've never seen such a salacious mess as I've seen out of her. I think of One West Bank. I had some pretty good properties out in California at one point in time. And I know I had 3 neighbors who had good properties. It was in a place called Ojai, California. And they got caught up about 15, 16 years ago, like a lot of people did, in that mortgage bundling scam stuff that was going on. And there was a bank called One West Bank responsible for it, which was owned by George Soros. The Mnuchin that you have out of the Obama administration was Mnuchin, who was the CEO of One West Bank. Well, there were approximately 1,200 counts of indictments returned against Mnuchin and One West Bank in various counties in California. Well, Mnuchin and Soros financed and arranged and sponsored Kamala to run for Attorney General of California. They got her elected. She got in, and using the authority she had, she promptly consolidated all 5,200 counts and dismissed them. And a couple of weeks later, Soros sold One West Bank for $4.2 billion. So after that, they got together and got her finance and got everything organized and made the connections for her, and she got elected to U.S. Senator.
Wow.
Willie Brown made the initial contacts and arrangements so she could get elected as district attorney for San Francisco. She didn't do a very good job. She had a reputation for giving out the stiffest sentences in the United States of America for simple possession of marijuana in San Francisco, for God's sake.
Right.
But it was only to young black men. She's not a parent, never had any children, but she went off on this campaign to lock parents up, some of whom actually were shown to have dropped their children off at the school, but they played hooky, so she was putting them in jail.
Oh, my gosh.
I know my in-laws, now late in-laws, because they're dead, and their fine daughter that I was married to, we were divorced. She got a whole lot of money, but anyway, out of me. What wound up happening was there was a liquor store they like to patronize on the way home, and it was a good liquor store, but it got held up a lot, so Kamala's solution was not go get the crooks, but close down the liquor store so nobody would be troubled by it.
That's crazy.
See, that kind of philosophy, or you've got a serial killer who's got 6 victims, and the families are writing protest letters to her, not hurry up and do something, not why are you giving the guy such a light deal, is why don't you let this man plead guilty to life without parole instead of delaying it for 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to make political hay out of it. I was caught up in a thing where this woman who was supposed to be a financial specialist wound up embezzling a lot, $1.5 million from me, about 15 million from some other black celebrities.
Oh my gosh.
And most of it was in the San Francisco area, not LA where I was. She consolidated the cases up there in San Francisco. Took 5 years to resolve it.
Oh my
Let her plead
gosh.
out not the $15 million of embezzlement, but $35,000. The sentence was 5 years in the penitentiary, 4.5 years suspended, 5 years probation. The woman wound up sitting on a bench outside Sybil Branch, which is the women's detention facility in LA County, for 5.5 hours. That's all the time she served. Ain't no restitution. And la-di-da, I'm through with it now. I don't care on her behalf. Like, where's our money?
Get
He
out of
said,
town.
so he said she only had to pay out of $15 million. She only had to pay $35,000, and she only had to sit benched for 5 hours.
That's crazy.
Kamala.
You know, what did you do here? You didn't even consult with us. You did this on a surprise basis. There's $15 million gone. What happened? It's the kind of thing she would do, see. So it's like, that was not a good professional performance. And then she was everybody's favorite Hindu Indian prosecutor and attorney general and senator, and now she becomes black. But, you know, I met her daddy, fine gentleman, Professor Harris. And the problem with her being black is Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica.
Wait a minute.
And had them to work on plantation. So
What?
if mama,
That's completely different. I didn't know that. I thought the dad was black and the mom was in. I guess that's why I heard somebody else say his dad was mixed with something else and he wasn't all the way black. And so she claims black because she's so brown colored.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian. Daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors. How did she get to be black?
Right.
Now, a little side story. When I had my show, let's say this has been 26 years ago, I had two beautiful women that I thought were sisters on the show. And they laughed one time when we all went to a happy hour and said, "You think we're black, don't you?" "Yeah, aren't you?" "No, we're Hindu." One of them said, "My mother's a Hindu Brahmin caste, and my father was Hindu warrior caste. He took an oath to the family to protect her. They fell in love, eloped, and now we got a death warrant on us. We can't go back to India." So, yeah, and then they gave me two books. The guys were Hindu, and they were very dark, but they cut their hair off close, grew beards, and started dressing and acting black, and they got financial aid. One of them, I think, went through medical school that way, masquerading for being black. Somebody
Passing.
else did it, so she went to Howard. And by the way, she told one big lie when she was talking about she got bust because of something Biden did when she was running against him. Well, the yearbook that she put out there that you can still get online from her high school in Canada shows she went from kindergarten through 12th grade in Canada, never went to school in the United States of America. She was born, by the way, in the same hospital that my ex-wife was born in, the same 12-month period, and my late mother-in-law was in fact a pediatric nurse in that hospital when Kamala was born.
Wow.
And the birth certificate that she has is interesting because the confusion comes from a mistake. On the birth certificate, it lists the mother's race as Caucasian, national origin India, and religion Hindu. For the father, it does not list national origin. It does not list religion. It does not list anything about that, but where it says race, they put national origin in Jamaica by mistake. Now, if you've ever been to Jamaica and you go over to St. Elizabeth Parish, you have the high, bright, and white that live in Jamaica. So I've got a good friend retired from law enforcement. He has a white wife, blonde-haired, blue eyes, but she was born in Jamaica. Her parents were born in Jamaica. One's blonde and blue-eyed, the other one's red-haired and gray-eyed. And they happen to be related to the King of England because they are aristocrats in England, but they were born in Jamaica.
Wow.
So if you go over there, you see people from Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, Kenya, South Africa, you name it. It's part of the British Commonwealth, and nobody needed a passport, and you could just go in and out.
Okay.
So it's not unusual. You're not black just because you are from Jamaica, and they have a whole lot of white people that never left, and their ancestors owned a lot of slaves. The Maroons went up into the hill country and got themselves free back in the 1840s, but you know, other than that, it is what it is in Jamaica.
Wow.
So just because you're from that country does not mean you are of the black race. So the problem is why don't you go get your daddy to give you an affidavit that you have a black ancestor? And since the only possible claim you have is through your great-grandmother, who he says was a Hindu house servant, that just happens to be swarthy, where'd you get your blackness from? See, you're faking it again. And I say this after 50 years of experience, the worst human beings you will ever find are career prosecutors. Something slimy about them. They are so turned off by humanity and everything else. They don't care. They're trying to win the game. It is just play to them. They don't give a damn about the people they represent. They just want to win. So they lie, cheat, steal to win the game. And that brings up the other thing, where the Supreme Court of California ordered her to produce the evidence that was exculpating to somebody sitting up on death row that she had hidden. They did that over and over and over again with her hiding this evidence. Now, there are exceptions to this rule with career prosecutors, but if you ever want to...
It's my last time. I mean, the way his knowledge is, it just reminds me of
consistent, no
the
drops,
law.
no skip.
You know, like Thomas Sowell is brilliant.
A wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and has a lot of historical facts and information. And this is what I think about every time I hear him, because he gives you a lot of facts, a lot of historical facts about things dealing with, you know, black people and other nations. And I was like, come on, Joe Brown.
Joe Brown is definitely that guy that you ran up to. You say, hey, Dr. Joe Brown, I love that jacket. Well, I got this jacket about 10 years ago.
He'll
and it
tell
had
you the history.
2 hours later.
Ooh, come on now, because I'm about to get ready to go such and such. Then you got to walk with me to the car. I can just see it all the way, like your uncle for real.
Sleazy somebody, find yourself a career prosecutor who's never done anything else but that until they have moved up. Now, there have been people like Thomas Dewey, who was a career prosecutor. He got... Lucky Luciano, the gangster that set up the mob as a syndicate, a business, he got him and became governor of New York and then an unsuccessful candidate for president twice. You have people like that, and you got Kamala, who was a career prosecutor.
Okay.
And that's essentially all she's done outside of moving directly over into politics. They tend to be crooks. They're not good people. It's like I used to, on the bench, it's like, excuse me, can you approach both of you? Do you have any character? Do you realize what you just did? Well, I mean, no, we can't have that. Wow. That is not going to be allowed up in here. You do it again, and the court's going to see to it that you get a 10-day paid vacation courtesy of the sheriff.
Wow.
No. See, and that's what I'm looking at. She wants to be chief administrative officer, but she's never been the boss over anything. She was nominally with the Attorney General's office, but you've got all of these egos with all of these people with doctorate of laws who've taken the bar exam, and every one of them in there could run against you in an election and be your boss, and is as qualified technically as you are to run the place. So she's never been the boss in charge of something where she dictated, because what she did in San Francisco and when she got over California is she essentially had somebody else doing it, and she was just a political figurehead. So when you come into this situation here, Putin, you know, Russia, Ukraine, those are serious things. They have a lot of nukes. You've got Xi Jinping, and China's got one hell of a huge army, Air Force,
we
nukes,
saw them.
computer systems, and so on. What is your experience in international diplomacy?
Exactly.
You got
Zero.
made the representative of the country to handle the foreign affairs. You failed so badly they yanked you out when you were actually the boss in charge. The borders are. You just complete abject failure to that. Your only appearance down there was to sit in a chair in the desert while they interviewed you, trying to be cute, flashing your pearls, you know, and you didn't do your job. So you're talking now about you want to legitimize 20 million aliens who've come in here and see that they get fast-tracked so they can vote and become part of the whole process. What are you doing? Whose jobs are you taking away? What about the people that actually lined up to go through the rules? You know, I want to become a citizen, so I...
And see, I had a problem with people, especially it was my people on that, saying they got caught in the whole thing about what Trump saying about black jobs. No, they completely missing what was being said. It's pretty much like folks gonna come in and pretty much the lower paying jobs that we work in, they can pay them at a different rate, and they can hire them and they're gonna work harder. Whereas you gonna complain about your salary, do what you do, and we
Right.
can replace you. And then people got it so twisted, saying, "Oh, this is my black job. You know, I'm a doctor. You ain't gonna be able to take my black job." You know, I'm like, ugh. People need their racism. It's like they need it.
I take the courses. See, nobody's checking. They've got an outbreak of hepatitis. They got an outbreak of measles. HIV is ramped up. They've got all kinds of things. They've got problems with strains of tuberculosis that have no cure. So people, before they come down with it, you have to put them on prophylactics for the rest of their life so they don't get a fatal illness that nobody can cure. Right. So nobody is running the medical test. Nobody is checking to see what penitentiary they got out of. And something that is pretty real is a movie. You remember Al Pacino in Scarface? They dumped all their penitentiaries and they're over here. You got all of these Latino gangs that have now infiltrated. You've got Ukraine, you've got Gaza. You've got people that hate the fact that they don't have technology to shoot down a B-1B bomber. So what do? They just walk across the damn border. Nobody's checking them.
Exactly.
And that's the crazy thing.
Exactly.
So that's the crazy thing. We don't know the repercussions. We have no choice but to deal with terrorism after letting all them people come through. And it'd be one thing we were just dealing with my Latino people. Now, it's another whole different level when you're dealing with that random Asian people and random Russian people that's coming from other
Iranian, African. I mean, you got people that's coming from all over the world who do not have our country at its best interest, nor the citizens that house it, that live there.
You don't think we're gonna have to deal with a terrorist attack?
Of course. I mean,
that's what happens when you let anybody get in.
Every time I think about the open borders, that's one of the major causes, one of the major things and concerns of mine.
Borders are, and then that's the person that was supposed to be over it.
She said, "Oh, I'm not going to the border. I haven't been to what she
Europe.
said, Europe. That's your job, and you're not going."
My eye did this when she said that. I was like,
I can't.
What?
I'm like, that's your job, though. Isn't that what you
giving them free transportation without even vetting their luggage. And in the luggage, they have military-grade explosives, which over the last several years, I'm sure they put in various building structures, hospitals, subways, and everything else. And on command, they flip the switch, and 911 looks like a Boy Scout meeting. So what are you going to do about these things? Nobody's checking. You have a situation
open.
right now that has to be taken into context.
Yep.
Just about every major seaport is using these container removal cranes, these giant gantry cranes. They're made in the People's Republic of China. Nobody checked them, and now they went back and did, and there seem to be some things built into them that they can't remove. Don't know what the function is, but they appear to be communication devices. What the hell are those?
Remember I told you that? Remember I told you that? And I can safely talk about this because it's okay for me to talk about this. So
I didn't say it wasn't.
yeah, because she'd be like, cut that out.
Yeah.
Cut that out of the feed.
And why do I say
So
that?
listen, the reason why he's absolutely correct about what happens is they go in, they have put this communication device that's hidden. It's usually China on this one. They will put communication devices and things you don't even know they exist and they're there, and that's what they are. So the reason why I can speak from the truth, because back when, and I'm disclosed to talk about it, it's not like hidden stuff, but when I worked for UCLA, some of the rooms that would be specifically rooms that would the military students or military in general going to speak on, there were AV equipment in there, and that's the AV equipment I used to manage. Every now and then, we would pop the casing open where all the equipment is, and there's a small microphone in there with a little recorder that's actively recording people. And we used to have to take.
That's crazy.
We had a collection of these things that were with the campus security. I would have to get it, report them, say, hey, I found another one. Because what this stuff is doing, it was transmitting back. Because whoever put it in there, they couldn't get it back out. So apparently they left it in there so it could continue to do what it needed to do. And if it's doing what it needed to do, that means it's transmitting data to somebody and they care less about going back to get it.
That's crazy.
And that was China. That was in the military rooms.
Well, a lot of the schools over here in California have a lot of Asian students.
But that's just like this is going to say when when it was a prophetess said, she talked about, she said, it's just going to be the people that you saw at the grocery store, the people that were just working in the little kiosk, and the people like this, all these people these people will turn on you because they serve a different leader in their country. And as soon as the word call that goes, you thinking that these are docile people, and they go in and now they come together to capture you. And that's what that makes me think about immediately.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to shoot down a B-1 bomber 56 miles from the southern border point where there is a huge illegal crossing. There is a U.S. Air Force base where 24 B-1 bombers stage out of. You can just surround a damn base with some RPGs and take a few of them out. We don't have but 24 of them that are operational, and some other was in long-term storage because we can't afford to operate the damn things.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? That was your job. Did you do it? Did you handle it? No. So, you know, they've got this thing where sometimes they promote people up. You know, you fail at a job, but you got a rep, so they can't get rid of you, so they promote you.
That's crazy.
Like, for example, Halsey, Admiral Halsey, Bull Halsey, always charged off, was aggressive. Great in World War I, World War II, the first part of it. But there was a thing in the Philippines, well, not Philippines, Leyte Gulf. It was a disaster. The Japanese laid a decoy force out. He fell for the trap, took off with all of the warships, left the beaches totally unguarded, told nobody, and he should have been court-martialed. But because of his fame, they couldn't, so they wound up promoting him to 5-star admiral instead of court-martialing him and canceling him. So, I mean, they do this kind of thing. So it's not unusual. But I'm just saying, hey, if you're going to bring somebody in, bring in somebody that knows what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
Meanwhile,
exactly.
she had a little rally in Georgia. I think 86 people showed up. That was supposed to be interesting. And she had the nerve to call Vance unpatriotic.
Yeah.
And he came back on her big time. He said, simplify, to serve, loyalty. I was in the Marine Corps over in the sand pile. and Trump took a bullet. What the hell have you done?
Right.
And you want to call somebody out on the subject. See, it's hypocrisy.
Yeah,
but you see, I did
correct.
this because I did what I did, and that's what I did, which is because that's why I did it. Hey, what the hell did you just say? Did you realize what you said? Do you know?
Listen,
Well, one thing you can count on Joe Brown, and that
Is
he
to
gonna
get the
keep it
truth.
all the way 3,000. And I love it.
3,000.
He gonna say it every time, and he don't cut no corners. He don't shave no edges, and he ain't put no cherries on top.
so y'all, we just have to listen
what?
listen, man. You got to listen to Judge Joe Brown. The reason why he knows so thoroughly because he does a lot of research,
And
he
he's
tells
been
you that.
around for a while too.
And he's been in the mix and scenes with some of the stuff that he's talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But I think this is
I've been enlightened, and I'm
whew,
gonna definitely
God,
be
I'm
looking for
this is just I don't know. I just feel
look for some more. I definitely want to do some further
don't even know what to
research
say.
about some of her, so-called accomplishments. Because when he brings it up all the way surreal. It's like, okay, some of the things that I've already read and what I can see with my own two eyes is absolutely equates to what he said.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a deeper dive. He took a deeper dive. And he broke it all the way down to make it make sense as to why she is not qualified. And that was my whole point. What about foreign policy do you know? And that's an area that I want to tap into. I really want to know more about foreign policy.
Yeah, that's a big one.
She is absolutely clueless. Like he said, just a simple sentence. And I didn't even think about what he said medically could be a possibility. But I'm like,
When I
where is the rationale in what you say? How does that correlate to the topic here?
What makes me nervous about her is more so is when it comes to wartime. Wartime, what makes me extremely nervous when it comes to kind of not even just her woke politics and all that. That's like, okay, the people are going to fight back on a lot of that stuff. But when it comes to her wartime experience and her wartime being able to prevent and hold back wars, that's where I feel like we would come up so short. And no feminist that supports her, any of these people that's rah, 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 a woman can do, is when you get in that position where you can't do. And now everything
you
y'all
gonna
said
do?
is everybody in the world is quiet. Because now this is a real situation that's going to really affect everybody.
Exactly.
You have the wrong person trying to stand in power.
And that's what really burns me up. Is that the person is incapable, and you still only want to vote. And let me not say only, whatever the causes are.
Because they're black, they're gonna
support.
My body, my choice.
Please, when it comes down,
all the stuff
and
that
like he
people are
said,
talking and fighting over.
I know, and like he said, when to sit down and have a meeting, and that's what I said. I said this. You and I were just talking about that. Can you imagine her going talking to Xi Jinping?
No, I can't.
And Putin.
Not on a serious, I'm the leader conversation. It's one thing when you're the vice president, but as the leader, no.
I said in another video, I think I said this. They would be they really rolling on the floor laughing now, holding their stomach just busting out. They was just really like, okay, with Biden, they were laughing, but they are rolling on the floor laughing now because they already know, oh, this cakewalk. He gone, and they don't put her in office. Please. Oh, we good. As you can see, they flying together. Come on, great
We're going to
people.
cover up on video on that because China and Russia are flying together, and they are together, and that's a superpower you don't want, and you don't want to take. So whenever that comes and we have to deal with them as a whole, you want to have the best person in office that can keep us patched together as we going through stuff, not somebody who I believe 100% of my heart that if it came down so serious that I believe that Kamala would step away and step down and say it'll be literally the first time in the history of the world where she was like, I'm sorry guys, I can't do this anymore.
No, they called
in the camera, Joy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry guys, I can't do this no more.
They'll be calling the Obamas, and that's probably who's gonna be up there running the winner in the first place. The old crew that's been carrying Joe the whole time. It ain't. Please.
You don't need nobody emotional going up there and just when it gets so deep and thick that she crying. just can't do this job.
Yeah, well, it's obvious, but
We got to do.
you want to act like it is.
We already on the brink of civil war, and we got these proxy wars going on, and we could be possibly facing it on our land. We don't need weakness, even though we know that the president doesn't control but so much, and we know that we have a two governments in this country. We got the one you see and the one you don't see. But for the face, and that's what these other countries like to utilize, because these other countries are aware of what's going on in this country. They're aware about multiple justice system. They're aware that the president isn't the only face, but these other countries will wait till we get weak enough into our own battles, and then they will invade while everybody else is looking over here. You don't need somebody who's looking over here with all the rest of the people. You need somebody who's in the fight, know what's going on,
exactly,
and protecting us, and they're not getting caught up in the
and
minutia like my body, my rights, support the women. You know, we don't really have that. That's the minutia.
A plan. We want a leader who is strong, who is not afraid of a fight, who knows how to negotiate. So many things. The list goes on. But yeah, okay. So I'm from what Joe Brown said. He said, put somebody in there that know what they doing, that stands a chance, that at least stands a chance. But anyway, all right, great people.
When she went on trial with
We love you
Lolo
guys.
Santoro, she was funded by George
We appreciate
Soros.
all of your support, great people. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It gets crazy. All right, man.
We love you
I'm
guys.
going to end this on this note.
Yes, subscribe to the channel. Share this video. Like. And let's get in that comment section. What y'all think about this? What do y'all think about all the facts? Put it below.
Bye.
2024, be more.
Yeah. Talk less as possible and listen. All right.